Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. Welcome to our 2023 annual meeting. The first order of business is to elect a chairperson to conduct the budget and annual meeting, and that can be from anybody in the audience. So I would take any nominations for that chairperson.
I nominate Joan Ensign.
Second. Thank you. Any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of me chairing this, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next thing, we need the reading of the official budget and annual meeting by Judy.
Okay. Notice is hereby given to qualified electors of the Waunakee Community School District that the annual meeting of said district for the transaction of business will be held at 905 Bethel Circle, Waunakee, 53597, on the 6th day of October 2023 at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Judy. One of the major parts of the meeting tonight is to review, do a budget summary and a district goal report. I believe the budget summary will be first, and Allie is going to do that for us this evening. Sure. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you. You want me to do it? Okay. So we're required by the DPI to have all of our financial data provided to the public, so you can find all of the information on the business services page on our district website, and all of the documents were also posted in the Waunakee Tribune prior to this meeting. Tonight we'll be talking about the third draft of the budget, and that was approved on July 10th, 2023. This budget was based on the governor's state budget, and then we will work after this meeting to come up with our final draft of the budget that will be presented next Monday on October 23rd. That will also be when the tax levy is approved. Our budget planning for this year started back in January, and it's brought us all the way to this point where we'll present you with the budget data that we have. I'll hand it over to Randy to go over the district priorities.
All right, thanks, Allie. What I want to take just a few minutes to do is we have 5 different priorities that the school board has set this year for us to be working towards. So I want to take just a few minutes to update our community on what those are and some of the work that's going into meeting some of those ends throughout the school year. The first one is with regards to our student learning and supports, and it's really focused on our state assessment results and wanting to get our student achievement results either at or above the levels that we were performing at in 2019. So looking at those pre-pandemic levels and working as we came out of the pandemic to really support our students and their academic growth to get back to those levels by 2025. Now, in order to do that, there's a number of things that we are taking a look at and a number of folks that are involved in this. I want to first of all thank our team for all of their work and really trying to put together robust plans to address our student achievement results and also to help support all of our students in that process. The first piece that I'm going to talk about is just with regards to professional learning communities. This is really an internal process of where we work with our staff on making sure that we are really focusing our work on the most important things, those pieces that reflect curriculum, assessment, student learning, and looking at how we help students who are not performing at the level that we want them to, and also how we accelerate students that are already have information and skills that we're teaching within our classrooms. So I'm a strong believer in that as a framework for us to work as professionals in education, and our continued efforts in there, I believe, will help to focus us to our student achievement results in the future. We also realize that our students are coming to us with different levels of social and emotional needs, and making sure that we are addressing those within the confines of school. When we take a look at our students and learning, we have to be able to support all of our kids in all different dynamics of their life to make sure that they're ready for learning. So that's a piece that we have put efforts to and will continue to. And I believe as we continue to work through that and also develop strong relationships and connections with our kids, that also helps them feel welcome at school, which then helps them to be in a better learning space. When we think about student achievement, we often think about those curricular areas. So a couple of areas that we are putting focus on in the next couple of years is math and reading. We have some math pilots that are occurring at this point, and we'll continue moving forward. And then we also have, you'll be learning about this at future school board meetings, but with regards to Act 20, which is a reading legislation that came through over the summer. That is with respect to things that we need to be doing as a district, and it's a state law with regards to reading instruction, and we are putting together a plan that will be focused on training our staff in specific methodologies and then implementing those pieces moving forward. This is also our first year of a bilingual program, and our number of students who are Spanish speaking have met the thresholds where we need to provide a different level of instruction for them. So we have implemented, this is our first year of our bilingual program. Thus far, it seems like it is going very positively, but we'll have reports to the board as we come to the end of the year, and then projecting forward as far as what our needs are. And then with regards to our DEI efforts, particularly around disproportionality, we've been working with our DEI committee and brought through the board really different efforts that we are doing to support all of our student learners across the district. When I take a look at that first priority, it's really focusing on student achievement. There's a few things that you're going to see happening over the next month or so. First of all, our district report cards. These are the report cards that come out from the state of Wisconsin that articulate how we do on different metrics that are set by the state. Those are embargoed right now, so we are not able to share the results of them, but they will come out to the public on November 14th. Tim Schell and Amy Johnson had a curriculum committee meeting today, and one of the pieces that they shared was at their November curriculum meeting, they are going to be spending quite a bit of time really focusing on that whole student academic achievement and progress results of our state assessments and other measures and metrics that we have set forth, particularly as they relate also to this first goal that we're talking about. The forward results have just come out for our 3rd through 8th grade students. When you look at there's a lot of data that comes out with regards to those that come out by grade levels, by school, etc. But just for the purposes of this conversation tonight, when we look at our combined scores for grades 3 through 8 in reading and math, Waunakee did come out in the highest performing within the Dane County region. So we're very proud of that, but there are areas that we feel that we also need to disaggregate down to make sure we're making progress in all areas, because there are some areas that just haven't had the same level of impact as others. But overall, we are showing progress post-pandemic and moving in the right direction, and we'll continue those efforts. A few other things that I think are making an impact that we're taking a look at. Our middle school staff are looking at their schedule as far as how they organize their day. The curriculum committee learned more about their plans at their meeting earlier today, and we will be bringing that at the November board meeting for all of the board to see, and then hopefully we can get some approval for us to move forward with the continued planning in those efforts. But we're really looking at ways that we can really accomplish two things: get more time in the core academic areas for our students on a daily basis, and also maintain the level of electives that we have within our district to give kids a great opportunity to learn different areas of academics across our sphere, so that when they get to high school they have a better understanding of what some of those electives may be. But a primary focus was looking at how we could increase the amount of time on a daily basis in our core academic classrooms, and I think we'll be able to accomplish that with the plan that's being put forward. Anytime you look at student achievement, it involves a lot of people, so I just want to say thanks, first of all, to Tim Schell, Amy Johnson, Lisa Jondal, and Tiffany Loken. They really kind of lead many of these efforts across our district. Our building principals have a very vital role at their buildings, our teachers, and our classified staff. Anytime you're touching kids' lives, you're impacting student achievement, so it takes a lot of people, and all of our folks who work in the district at some point in their time are impacting our students. Our second goal is really looking at those things with regards to our staff. Brian Grabarski's done a great job working with really what we need to do to recruit and retain our staff. One of the objectives that we have for the next couple of years is to really address some of our salary needs and payment needs for our hourly staff. So we have put together a goal for us to bring us up to the average level of pay by 2025. So that is a piece that will be a goal for us to look at financially as we kind of move forward, and as we're talking about our financial situation here tonight and moving forward into the next budget cycle, something that we need to take a look at as a prioritization. Brian's also done some work with our employee climate survey. Our second year of that is taking place this fall. That gives us great input on kind of how our staff feel about working here and ideas that we can look at for the future. And then also looking at just working with all of our staff who are part of the recruitment and retention efforts, and also Brian and his staff going out to different places to recruit in different locations, job fairs, et cetera, that we traditionally haven't been part of. Our third priority is really around budget and finance. You're going to learn a lot about that tonight. Just want to thank Steve Summers and Allie Dye for their work in that. I really feel we have an outstanding team that leads us forward financially and does a great job bringing forth the priorities and brings forth creative ideas for how we can maintain a strong financial status as a school district. You can go. Thanks, Allie. The fourth item is with regards to facilities. This is our fourth focus area. So a lot going on in this area, particularly as we look at the referendum projects from 2022. We've given continued updates to the board with regards to the Heritage Elementary project, which is taking place right next to the intermediate school on Woodland Drive. That project is right now on time and doing well from a budgetary standpoint. So we're very excited about opening that up next fall. And the middle school designs were just presented at the last school board meeting, and that will hit the bid market in the second part of the school year. But it's still on target for opening in 2026. Steve Summers has started to work with our enrollment projections and our growth projections, and we'll be bringing forth a report at a point in the future to see how our projections are playing forward with regards to just what's happening within the district, the subdivisions that we see that are coming and growing, and also what that looks like for future long-range planning. Also under this priority area is an area of school safety. We have engaged our community safety committee in more diligence over the last year, and we're continuing to do some work internally as a district and then working with our community partners to make sure that we're at the front end of anything from a safety perspective. Our fifth priority area is our stakeholder engagement. This is one that Annie Blackburn does a wonderful job on as far as connecting in with our community. A few things that she is working on this year is looking at how can we do a stronger job of welcoming our new families and having a consistent approach to that. And then also we're looking at an engagement and satisfaction survey with our constituents probably towards the end of the school year. Some other things that are happening, obviously there's the superintendent search process that is going on. The board has done a great job with reaching out to stakeholders. I think that input helps not only in that process, but also to take a look at what are some of the strengths and areas of growth for the school district. And the student and staff learning sessions, again, are something that have been prioritized and will take place after the first of the year. Under the other category, these are just some areas that didn't necessarily fit under one of the other priority pieces. We are reviewing all of our district policies, so appreciate the time of our district policy committee and the work that they put forth. And then we have two areas of study that we're putting some efforts to. One is robotics. We just feel that this is an area that we have room to grow as a district. And actually, when we take a look at this from a regional perspective, the Madison area does not have a real strong robotics presence. So it's an area that we want to do some work on, and we will be reporting to the curriculum committee and the board at a point here in the near future. And then also looking at alternative pathways to graduation. So looking at our alternative ed programs at the high school. We've certainly have utilized the programs that we have in creative ways, and I think it's time for us to take a look at that with some fresh eyes to see what are some opportunities that may present themselves there. So I know that our alt ed staff will be presenting to the board at one of the future curriculum meetings, and then also we'll be putting some ideas forward as far as how we can improve that line of work. But overall, I feel that our district is in a good place. I appreciate the board's support of the priorities that you set forth, and we're working hard as an administrative team and with our staff to make sure that we meet those expectations.
Thank you very much, Randy, for that summary. And I think now it's going back to Allie. Thank you.
So just a little bit of an overview of the governor's state budget. One of the biggest takeaways from this biennial budget was that the per pupil increase was raised to $325 per student for 23-24 and also for 24-25. There wasn't too much other pressing stuff that came out of the budget. Categorical aid remained the same at $742 for both years, and then we also have our operational referendum that we will be increasing we will be exceeding the cap by $3 million this year and then $6 million next year. This is a little bit of a historical overview of our revenue cap increase. The graph on the side does not include our exceed the cap referendums. So the $2.1 million is not included in there, and then the $1 million from last year is not shown, and neither is the $3 million that we have in the budget for this year. State aid increased by $137.9 million. Waunakee will see about $1.1 million of that. Special education aid increased up to 33% this year. We are estimated to receive $126,000 more this year compared to last year. There was additional funding for property tax levy credits in the state budget, and we estimate that Waunakee will see about $1.9 million of those additional levy credits. This is a little bit more information about local property taxes. So we are informed of the total levy credit amounts that we will receive. So there is a formula where you can calculate it, and that's how we estimated that we would receive about $1.9 million this year. We still have additional ESSER 3 funding this year. We were allocated about $3.7 million. We spent part of those funds last year, and the rest will be expended this year. We did have an enrollment decrease this year. We had a budget that estimated an increase of 9 students. We actually came in below that with 4,406 students this year, so we had a decrease for 8 students compared to what we estimated in the budget. This is a historical overview of enrollment trends here in Waunakee. So this shows the capacity and the building capacity and enrollment. So the dark purple is the capacity for each building, and then the gray is the actual enrollment currently. And we calculate that there's still an excess capacity of 300 students. We did have a 10% increase over 22-23 for what we budgeted for our general fund expenditures. That includes a 10 FTE increase in staff, and then we also have the board-approved 8% CPI increase for all staff, and then the compensation system increases for teachers and classified staff. This shows a historical overview back to 16-17 of our Fund 10 expenditures. This shows a historical overview of the cost per pupil that Waunakee spends. Just a general overview of revenue in Fund 10. State aid increase $1.1 million. The local taxes increased $4.4 million, and we had a total increase of $5.7 million compared to last year's budget. This chart shows a breakdown of general state aid versus the property tax in Fund 10. So this year, 39.7% is state aid, 4.9% is per pupil aid, and 44.7% comes from the tax levy. This shows back to 2016-2017, the amount of tax levy in Fund 10. This is the total tax levy, I apologize. So in 22-23, the equalized property values were $3.9 billion. The tax rate was $9.69. This year we estimated that the equalized property value would be just over $4 billion. We also estimated that the tax rate would stay consistent at 9.69, And this year, the equalized property values actually increased to $4.6 billion, so just under 17% compared to last year. This shows a breakdown of the total tax levy into each fund. So the $28 million in the general fund, the $11 million in Fund 39, the referendum debt service fund, and then the $394,000 in our Fund 80 community service fund. So the tax levy includes a debt service tax levy, which is Fund 39, of $11 million, and this is to pay off the debt that we have outstanding. We no longer have a capital expansion fund, Fund 41, so all of those expenditures have been moved to the general fund. This shows the historical trend of equalized value for the district, so it's gone up quite a bit since 2016-2017. The district has had a goal of having an average increase of $0 on the tax rate, so this chart shows what the tax rate has been for the last few years. As you can see, it remained consistent. Last year it went down due to the referendum, and then this year we're predicting that it will actually go below the 9.69. So on October 1st, the state releases the equalized value. We had estimated that it would be a 3% increase. However, as I mentioned earlier, it was just under 17%. So we try to increase the levy each year based on net new construction. We had an estimate in the budget of 3%. Net new construction actually came in at 3.21%. It's also important to remember that the tax shifts between municipalities from year to year, so it's not the same for each tax. It's not the same for each municipality from year to year. This just shows our fund balance over the years. And then these are just some next steps with the 23-24 budget. So we have our third Friday in September enrollment count, so we've updated that for the final draft of the budget. There's also been some changes that have taken place since the third draft was approved in July. We have our cash flow borrowing expenses in. We know our open enrollment revenues and expenses now. We've gone over the 4K expenses. We've gone over transportation expenses, updated utility and building budgets, the summer school budget, district grants, and then personnel costs as well. We also have the final district property values in the final draft of the budget, and then we also have the revenue cap amount. We also will include in the final draft of the budget state aid compared to what we had estimated it. We also have the final district tax rate of $897 compared to the $969 that we had in the budget. And then all of the changes will be completed by November 1st, which is the last date that we can approve the budget and finalize the tax levy. There is the board meeting next Monday to approve the tax levy for 23-24. And then this is just how our budget is managed and the financial reviews that we have. We have our board treasurer, Jack, the school board committee, for budget committee. We have our school board members, the Department of Public Instruction, our auditors, Whitfleet. We also have external private businesses such as Moody's and Standard & Poor's that do our credit ratings, and then any citizen is welcome to review this information at any time as well. We did have a new credit rating done last December. We did have an improved rating from an A1 to a AA-. All this information is located on the district website as well. This shows the Dane County tax rates for 22-23. We were the 6th highest in the county in 21-22, and then we were the 9th highest in the county in 22-23. This shows the average cost per student in Dane County for 21-22. We were the 5th lowest in the county, and then in 2021, we were the 4th lowest in the county in 21-22, And on average, we spend about $5 million below the Dane County average. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, all of the information that I presented tonight is on our district website.
Any questions on that part of the budget? Thank you very much, Ally. The long-term financial planning, is it?
Joan, thank you. I'm just going to cover a few slides to just talk about some of the longer-term planning. This is really for community members to be aware of the discussions that we're having as a district, and board members, you're aware of these conversations that we certainly had this summer at the school board retreat. But to make the community aware, we were discussing and have been discussing the expiration of the non-recurring operational referendums. So the public has approved in the last several years 2 different rounds of non-recurring operational referendums. There was the $2.1 million approved in 2020, and then there was the phased-in referendum that Ally referenced earlier that was approved in November of 22. So there will be a total of $8.1 million in Fund $10 that will expire prior to the 25-26 fiscal year. That is one of the long-term factors that we will continue to be working on with the board over the next year. Another topic that we talked about is the disconnect between the state budgetary resources and the operational costs of a public school. Ally referenced before the $325 increase that was provided in the state budget. While certainly welcome compared to the state budget prior, there still is a disconnect between about a 3% increase in revenues and all districts that have costs related to the cost of living, inflation, CPI. So there does continue to be a disconnect, which is why a number of Dane County districts did seek additional funding through operational referendums from their public in the recent years, is to try to address that difference that they're seeing between their revenues and their expenditures. We also are noting again the below average compensation for hourly staff, which was referenced on the board priorities earlier from Randy. Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. We have worked to create a 3-year financial plan. The challenge with that plan is it doesn't have the resources associated with it to fund the plan. So we have it, we've continued to update it, we shared it with the budget committee last spring, but have only implemented a few parts of that plan. We have had some conversations about whether or not an operational referendum in November of 2024 would make sense to seek to replace the expiring funds of the $8.1 million. There certainly could be a path that the school board could choose to look at an operational referendum in November of 24 with a potential backup date of April of 25. We are limited to the number of referendum questions a school can ask in a calendar year, so it's just important to plan ahead to basically make sure that the board's intentions in looking at those referendum cycles are met as we plan into the future. Another question is, should the next operational referendum question also address the state budget resource gap and our hourly pay gap that we had referenced as well? One of the things that we talked about with the school board this summer was the possibility of a community survey developed to address at least the topics that we have here, if not more. The topic of recurring versus non-recurring referendums. Our last couple have been non-recurring on the operational end, but prior to that, we had often used recurring referendums. Property tax levy consistency. This is something the board has had as a long-term goal for a number of years to provide consistency to our property taxpayers. We could certainly check with the community to find out what type of support there is for that plan. The state budget resource gap as well as the hourly pay gap are things that we certainly could ask our community members to weigh in on. Rebecca? And then as well as we've had discussions about long-term facility planning, continuing our process. Randy referenced earlier, beginning to update the report, the long-range facility plan, certainly to reflect the facilities that were approved with the last referendum, to update the capacities, update our enrollment projections. New Heritage Elementary School opens in September of '24, the new middle school opening in September of '26, and the creation of a high school campus. We do know that in the referendum that was approved by the public last November, we had only limited funds available for specific targeted work at the high school. We also had district-wide maintenance funds available that we are working with the facility committee to certainly prioritize work at the high school. We have discussed about the potential, maybe perhaps 4 years from now, from a referendum that would focus on the concept of a high school campus. And then potentially at some point down the road, based on the enrollment, continuing to monitor the need for a 4th elementary school. These are all the types of long-term plans that the administrative team is working with the school board on, and we just wanted to make sure that the community is aware of those discussions, and we'll be continuing those discussions, very likely with some type of surveying going on either late winter or early spring.
Thank you very much, Steve and Allie and Randy, for all the reports this evening. At this point, I would like to reference the minutes from our 2022 annual meeting. They are attached in board book, and we need to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from the 2022 meeting.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes last year? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now we would like, Jack, if you have anything more to add as a treasurer's report?
No, just we have the information on the school website. As Allie has indicated, it's all been audited by Whipley, and everything looks according to how it should.
Thank you, Jack. Next part of the meeting is to go through just some yearly resolutions that we need to authorize the school board to do some of the things that they need to do. At this point, I do need members of the public who are in attendance to please help with motions for these and second, and if you would just state your name, and so Rebecca can take accurate minutes for these resolutions. Starting with authorizing the school board to set student fees. So there's a student fee resolution. It is on the board in front of you. And do we need to read it, or yes? Probably should. When you make the first introduction to that, it would be nice if you would read that resolution. So I need a motion for that.
Michelle, I move that the Board of Education of the Waunakee Community School District, Dane County, State of Wisconsin, is hereby directed to charge student fees and at such cost as shall be set by said school board.
Second, Dean Kaminsky.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you for that resolution. Next is the resolution which sets the board's salaries. This was increased last year. I appreciate that. And the resolution is as follows on the overhead.
Joan, if you wouldn't mind, there's something we did want to note, Brian, you just want to mention it for a minute. It's on the previous slide. It's that fourth bullet point that we wanted to just get some clarification on at the annual meeting. So if Brian could just have a minute to review that, please.
Sure. Thank you.
The question arose this fall if board members were able to access the district wellness clinic. The language of our agreement would permit it. in conversations with Steve, we felt it should probably be recognized as part of the compensation that the school board would receive if the board was interested in doing that. I would suggest that, we could treat board members similarly to employees that are not on our health plan, and that the visits would allow them to use the clinic, and it would be a $20 payment for those services, just as it would be for our employees that are not on our health plan that access the wellness clinic.
Thank you. And that is included in the resolution.
We'd have to modify.
It's not.
We'd have to modify.
I could, certainly willing to make an amendment to the resolution, I guess, but just sharing a little background on why I would do that.
Michelle, I would like to move on this, but I'd like to preface before the motion that, with respect to towards salaries, we haven't really had an overall framework for approaching it. For many years, the salaries hadn't been increased. Last year was kind of a catch-up. The concept of the CPI is pretty intrinsic to how we approach the employee groups in the district. So the motion I'm going to make is actually going to reflect an 8% increase, which is reflective of the baseline CPI that was used with employee groups this year. So just kind of just explain where this is coming from. So I move that the board members of the Waunakee Community School District be paid a salary as stipulated below and be reimbursed for the expenses incurred in district business when traveling outside the district. Salaries to be president, clerk, and treasurer, $6,696. All other board members, $6,048. And I would also include the item referenced by Brian Gravarsky that members of the Board of Education have the opportunity to access the district wellness clinic on the same basis as employees who are not under the district's insurance plan.
Thank you, Tim.
Dan Carter, second.
Okay, any questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No,
No?
respectful. Thank you.
We need authorization to fund or to run a school or a food service program. So the resolution is up there soon. Peggy.
Peggy Breinig. Be resolved, the Board of Education of the Waunakee Community School District, Dane County, State of Wisconsin, is hereby directed to furnish school lunches to any and all students of this district at such places and times and at such cost as shall be set by said school board, and the school board is hereby authorized to pay any bill of deficiency which may result from said lunch program.
Thank you.
Second, Brian Gravarsky.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. We also need to seek legal advice and counsel occasionally, so we need a resolution allowing us to do that.
Dean Kaminsky, be it resolved, the Board of Education of Waunakee Community School District, be authorized to engage legal counsel to represent the district, provide legal advice to the district.
Second, Dan Carter.
Dan Carter, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Setting the annual meeting, so this would give the school board authorization to set the time of the annual meeting. And the resolution, thank you.
Before we set forth a date, there was some discussion about moving the date up because of payroll issues. And so I off of that, Steve, you might want to clarify the concerns so that we can have a clearer vote on this.
Private context.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So we did have an agenda item at the last budget committee where we talked about the potential of moving the annual meeting date prior to the regular September board meeting. If we did that, we'd have the opportunity to have our cash flow borrowing process completed by the end of September instead of where we're currently doing it between October 15th and the end of October. Our current setup results in us having our cash flow borrowing come in anywhere between 3 to 5 days before the October 30th payroll, which is just incredibly tight for purposes of cash flow management. If we were able to move it to early September, then we would have a much better structure of 3 to 4 weeks before we truly did need the funds. So the resolution that's on the next slide has two options. One is to give the board the authority to set the date. If the resolution is read, so the board has the authority to set the date, the board would set the date next spring. I think that's done at the board reorganization meeting. And then we would have plenty of time to really work on the date. But if someone in the crowd actually has a resolution for the specific date, we would request consideration prior to the regular September board meeting.
Thank you, Steve. So with those clarifications and options,
I move that the Board of Education of the Waunakee Community School District be authorized to set the date and hour of the 2024 annual meeting within the guidelines established by Wisconsin statutes.
Second, Tim Shaw.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We also need authorization to provide transportation, so we need the resolution on transportation.
Dan Carter, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Waunakee Community School District, Dane County, State of Wisconsin, be authorized to purchase, operate, and maintain transportation vehicles as well as contract for transportation services to provide transportation to students, including but not limited to students whose residence is located within 2 miles of the school the student attends as per board policy.
Second, Dan Kaminsky.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Now we're down to the tax levy, which is kind of a summary of what we heard tonight. The board is recommending a total levy of $39.7 million, of which $28.2 million is for general fund, $11 million is for debt service, 0 is for non-referendum debt service, and 0 is for the capital expansion fund, and $394,500 is for the community service. So we have a resolution to summarize that. Motion for that. Peggy?
Peggy Breinig, I move as follows. As chairperson, I move that we levy a school tax assessed against all taxable property within the Waunakee Community School District in the sum of $39,712,221 necessary to operate and maintain the district school system and to finance the recommended budget for the 2023-24 school year.
Thank you.
Second, Brian Dabrowski.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we are down to questions and information for any of the board members. At this point, anything can be brought up. Peggy?
Not really a series of questions, but I can make a statement.
Sure.
My name is Peggy Hill-Breinig. In 2008, I was on the Board of Education when Randy Gutenberg accepted our offer to become district superintendent. We trusted that what we knew about him at the time and how he presented himself during the interview process would prove to be reflective of who he was as an educator, leader, and person. Over the years that followed, Randy continued to reinforce what my gut had told me in 2008. Your first impression of him is genuine, and his communication and problem-solving skills reflected high levels of expertise, professionalism, and good character. In January of this year, Randy formally notified the board of his decision to retire at the end of this school year. Providing 18 months for the board to go through the process of choosing a successor is so Randy. He genuinely cares about our school district and community, and he wants to do what's best for everyone. I thank the school board for adopting the search process you have and can truly appreciate what you are going through. The consultant who facilitated the community focus group that I attended last month stated he was encouraged by the number and quality of applicants already received. Our district has a reputation which other leaders want to become part of, in part because of Randy's leadership over the years. Finally, I want to echo a statement made by President John Ensign in the January 9th, 2023 announcement accepting his notification, which can be found on the district's website under board/superintendent search. I am also proud to have had the opportunity to serve on the board alongside Randy. Thank you, Randy, and I really do wish this Board of Education all the best, given the important decision you will soon be making.
Thank you very much, Peggy. And thank you, Randy, again for the gift you have given this district. And with that, I would just like to thank everybody for coming this evening, and we probably are down to adjourning this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.